Final Fantasy XIV Online is coming out with their own tabletop RPG. Hello again, this is Heretic Prince. I saw the announcement for this game and I immediately had questions. Biggest of which is, does this compare with D&D? Would it be a lot like Dungeons & Dragons, or would it work more like Pathfinder or something else? And alas, dear listener, I was unable to find those kinds of details. But the most important detail, and probably the biggest question on your mind, that I can tell you is that the release date is currently slated for May of 2024. So I figured I would just go over some of the details that are actually on the official page. And then if this keeps my interest and I find more details, I'll make more videos on it, or I'll just update in the video's comments. The official summary is as follows. Based on the hit MMO Final Fantasy XIV, the Final Fantasy XIV TTRPG is a tabletop role-playing game that lets you experience Eorzea from a whole new perspective. Step into the shoes of a heroic adventurer or assume the game master's mantle. Then cooperate to forge your own unique stories within the vast and exciting universe of Final Fantasy. Gather your friends together to explore, battle, and roleplay. The only limits are your imagination, and the only goal is to have fun. Now that tends to be the sentiment of all tabletop role-playing games. It's almost hard to define real objective rules to roleplay, right? However, as somebody who plays Final Fantasy XIV, I do see some roadblocks whenever it comes to role-playing in that game. Granted, I've never played on a roleplay server on this one. Almost every player character is almost like a messiah. They can be everything, do everything, be the best at everything they can do. Everyone can be every class, switch between every class. There's really nothing separating you from everybody else. And I wonder if that carries over into this game. Though, from what I've read so far, it seems like you're limited to whatever class you pick. Now, this image, of course, catches my curiosity because it says the Final Fantasy XIV TTRPG Final Fantasy Starter Set. So, that immediately implies that there's going to be expansions, I assume? Which would make sense. The thing I have to compare it to, because the tabletop RPG I know best is Dungeons & Dragons, and Lord knows that has a lot of expansions, both official and fan-made. And that's the wonderful thing about these kind of games, is that they happen mostly in your head. So it's really not a big deal to make up your own adventure. Now, there's a section here that goes over everything that the game starts with, and we'll touch on that here in just a moment. But I think the important thing in here is that it says that it's for players between 3 and 5, 3 and 5 as in the number of players, 5 recommended. That makes sense. You need a dungeon master or a game master, depending on what terminology you like best. A usual dungeon party in Final Fantasy XIV is 4 people, 2 DPS, 1 tank, 1 healer. But I also find it curious that they say playtime of 2 hours. That makes me wonder how structured the game is, because let me tell you, my D&D group can spend a 6-hour session shopping. Like, sometimes I hear D&D horror stories where somebody said, oh my gosh, this one dungeon took us 2 to 3 hours. It was horrible. And I'm like, ha ha ha, hold my beer. Now, here's something I think the game might be worth buying simply for these alone. I make it no secret that I am a huge fan of the Final Fantasy art. I am not educated enough in art styles to know what this is from, but it seems to be fairly unique to the Final Fantasy brand. On the left, we have the standard rulebook, which I assume is for players and DMs alike. Then on the right, we have the Game Master's Guide. And the cover art alone makes me want to start playing a floor tank or Dragoon again. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. If the books actually look like this, then they're going to be beautiful, and I might buy it just to own them. And if the system is similar to 5e, who knows, maybe I could get this and take my first crack at DMing. And just for a quick rundown, the standard rulebook says, it includes all the basic rules and information you need to create your character and play the Final Fantasy XIV tabletop RPG. Designed as the core rulebook for adventurers and game masters alike. This fundamental game resource will open up a world of unlimited adventure. And for the other book, the details read as follows. The Scenario and Game Master's Guide is a powerful resource for game masters who wish to run their own adventures. It contains a wealth of information and advice for running the game, and provides a wide variety of handy data that can help game masters craft their own stories and scenarios. It also includes a number of original pre-made scenarios that can be played right out of the box as well. Now on this page, we can actually see some images of the things that will be included in the box. Even to get you started quicker if you so need so, if you're truly that excited, there's already 4 characters created. Yeah, there's the character sheets there. It looks like there's no mechanic for switching classes. Looks like there's little maps here for whenever you actually enter into a combat scenario. Now here is what really disappointed me. The D20s and the D6s. They don't seem to be very special, except for the 20 is a Final Fantasy XIV symbol. I mean, that's nice, but I think they could have used a little bit more flair. I'm sure people who are collectors of dice, which we all eventually turn into, will still want to buy this game just so that way they have their hands on these die. Now, just to put this in here, I was reading an article where it had said that, oh, the game will come with this many D20, and then it has in parentheses, that means a 20-sided dice. And I'm like, are you serious? Nobody is reading about this who doesn't know what a D20 is. Now we can talk about the contents of the box, right? There's the player handbook. There's the Game Master book, which we talked about before, that has beautiful art on it. The pre-made character sheets. So already out of the box, you can start as a warrior, a white mage, a floor dragoon, and a black mage. You get 6 D20s. That's a 20-sided die if you didn't know. And 10 D6s, which I'm just going to warn you, that will be the beginning of your obsession. You will have more dice than that. 1 month, tops. You'll be going through Amazon looking for your own special type of dice. Also comes with rule summary and strategy guide, encounter map, character tokens, and ability markers. And as we already covered, but in case you missed it, the release date is currently set for May 2024. Unfortunately, I couldn't find much more information on the system or the rules or how exactly it is going to work. I get the impression it's going to be a little bit more structured, so that way it's more streamlined and you get through the adventure quickly. And because I'm me, I'm just going to cover one of the things I'm liking about Final Fantasy XIV in general is that it's certainly not made for modern audiences. I don't know what makes me think that. It just seems like the game's not afraid of upsetting people. Final Fantasy has stood its ground on many different occasions, and maybe that's why Final Fantasy XIV is the #1 MMORPG currently. So I'm looking very forward to seeing this. Maybe I'll get a chance to play it with my friends if one of us actually pick it up and play it. It might be tricky because my D&D group is more than 5 people. But if I get a chance to play it, I will certainly make a video on what I thought about it. As always, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider leaving a like. Possibly a comment telling me what you think we have in store for this game. And oh, I love those subscriptions. But in all seriousness, thank you so much for listening. This is Heretic Prince, signing off.